All right, here we go. So, the first thing that I wanted to cover was to tell you a story about a listing. Okay. Uh, I need to back up a second and tell you that, like we talk about a lot of things in the meetings. We talk about speed to lead. We talk about, or I talk about, and you guys listen about having to be fast to the lead, having to try to set the appointment up uh, first thing in the morning, the following day, or at least make that offer. We talk about the fact that that time crunch will put you in a bind because you'll have to print and create a book. Because I won't go to a listing without a book, and it all can be kind of stressful. So I want you to know that I do really try to practice what I preach. And full disclosure, um, you know, your significant others might not always appreciate the way that you approach real estate. And as I get into the story, uh, that'll clarify a little bit. So, the one good thing that I will say is my significant other, very, very, very early in our relationship, I made it extremely clear, and Alan's going to get a chuckle out of this. I said, I need you to understand, at some point you're going to hate my job. Like at some point you're going to absolutely hate my job. And she was like, nah, your job's great. And I'm like, you don't understand. At some point in time, you're going to learn to hate my job. So uh, I got to give her a couple of props for putting up with me. So let's get into the story. All right. Let's get into the listing story. I guess it would have been 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Um, I don't know where we were coming from, but we decided spontaneously, Jess and I decided we're going to go to Grumpy's. Um, and hold on, I'm going to let people in. We're going to go to Grumpy's and grab a burger and a beer. It's going to be this impromptu kind of like, you know, date, and it's going to be a good time. So, um, those of you that do know me know that like I will always try and find restaurants that have a counter, okay? And I will always try to sit at the counter. Like that's just my vibe, right? I don't want to sit at a table. I don't want to do any of that crap. I want to sit at a counter like at a diner, and I want to have that kind of experience. That's how I like to eat. So we're sitting at the counter and I get a text. If you're a real estate agent, you always like mute your phone, but you have the phone on top of the counter so that you can see the screen in case anybody texts in, right? So I get a text, and it's from someone that's in my sphere, and we're not going to use any names throughout this story. It's from someone that's in my sphere, and I guess it's about 5 o'clock. There's some from someone that's in my sphere that's also in the industry. Okay. This person's not an agent, but they work very, very closely in the industry. And it was a contact card that said, I'm giving this at her request, I'm giving this information to her and two other agents. She wants to talk to three agents. Good luck. Right. Okay. The burgers are there, like, the beer's on the counter. And I'm like, babe, sorry, I got to make this call. So I call and I get the potential client's voicemail and I leave a message, right? And then I'm like, I'm sorry, I just got to send one text. So then I text, hey, I just left you a message. I'm sorry that I missed you. I got your information from blank. I hear that you might be investigating selling your house. I can be there tomorrow morning, right? So now we're eating, and I've done my part. We're eating, and the client texts me back. The client says, uh, "Call me when you can. Here's my number." Right? And so at this point, I'm getting a little bit of the eye, right? Like I'm getting a little bit of the eye from the person that I'm eating with. And so I texted the client back and said, "Hey, I'll call you in 45 minutes or less." Okay, I will call you in 45 minutes or less. Now I'm done. I eat my burger. I finish my beverage. We go out to the car, get into the car, and like I won't close the car door. The car door's open because it's warm outside because I want to make this phone call before the car moves, right? I know I might have to write. I know I might have to look at my phone. I know I might have to do all that stuff. So we're not leaving. So I make the call. The client picks up. The client is a very, very nice senior citizen, and she likes to talk. Okay. She likes to talk. So I'm, talking and doing what I do and scheduling an appointment for yes, 10 o'clock the following morning. And it's getting on into the evening because she likes to talk. And Jessica's pacing around the car and looking at me like, I got to get up at 3 in the morning. What are you doing? And I just did what I had to do. And finally, the conversation terminated, right? So the appointment's at 10 a.m. The following morning, 10:30 rather, 10:30 the following morning. Okay. I'm hoping I'm first, but I don't know that. So uh, then we, head on home, right? You think it's not over. So I get home. What do I got to do? Now I've got the address. I got to get into it. I got to make a book. I got to pull some comps. I got to print a listing agreement. I got to do all this stuff. Okay. Jessica's gone. She's in bed, right? I'm making all this stuff. I got to send it to Staples. Staples timer says we can't have your book done by the time you need it done. So I pay extra money for the rush, right? The rush says, well, we can't have it done by the time you need it done either, but I'm just going to be fingers crossed that they do my order. I send them a lot of printing. So, I'm just going to be like fingers crossed that they get in tomorrow and oh, Damian's got an order. Let's go ahead and do that. And that's it. So I wake up early and I do everything that I do early, and then I'm getting into my email, and about 7:30 or 8 o'clock I get the confirmation that Staples has my order done. Great. Okay. We can actually show up with a book like I wanted to. Um, I've got my listing agreement. I've run my stats. Remember we talked about how I run price stats last week. I've run all my stats. I have those numbers committed to my brain. Okay. It's $313 a square foot and it's $649,000. Okay. I've got that committed into my brain, and I head for Staples, right? So I head for Staples. I pick up my book. God is with me that day. There's not a big line of people at the print center that I have to fight my way through. I run by the office. I bind my book. I bind the two other books that I have made. I throw them in the car. Um, I head for the appointment. I'm now like kind of right on schedule. All right, everything's going to be fine. There's not going to be problems. I forgot to go to the bathroom. That's going to come up in a minute. Okay, I forgot to go to the bathroom because I was in a hurry, and I drink a lot of water. There you go. And I forgot to go to the bathroom because I'm trying to get out of there. Show up to the house, get out of the car. I got all the good clothes on. Okay. Good looking house. Looks great from the curb. Great spot in Christian Valley. Feeling good about it. Got all the good clothes on. Head for the door and and go in and start taking the tour of the house. I won't bore you with every single detail, but go in and start doing the listing thing. Let me see the house. We walk through the house. She talks about the house. She's been in it for a long time. She's put a lot of money into it. You know, uh, she needs to downsize because she's getting older. This house is on a sloped lot. It's beautiful, but it's hard to navigate. There's a lot of footage to it. She just doesn't need it anymore. We're talking about all that, and things are going really, really well. Okay. Really, really well. I'm feeling really, really good about where we are in the conversation and how I'm being received as a real estate agent. Okay. And I know, I know that I'm not going to have any problems getting my listing agreement signed before I leave. And remember, so now I've got this listing agreement that is that is printed out and partially filled out, and I've got my blue pen, and I'm going to have to fill in all the boxes, and I'm going to have to do all of that. But I'm feeling pretty good about that. And so we're outside walking on the deck. You know, there's this big wraparound deck on this property. We're outside walking on the deck. And remember, I said that the house is elevated from the street, and I can see my truck parked in the driveway. And I see another car behind it. Okay. I see another car behind it. And, for those of us been doing it for a while, we can spot a realtor rig, right? We know what they look like. We know exactly what they look like, right? You got the vanity plate, okay? You got the license plate frame with the R on it. You got like 75 files in the front. You got 3 coffee cups on the dashboard. We know what they look like. And the the client says, "Well, did you bring somebody with you?" And I said, "No, no, I didn't bring anybody with me." And from the parking area, you got to walk all the way around to get to the front door, right? So I know that the realtor is somewhere between the car and the front door. Okay. And I said, "Do you, senior?" She's a senior, very nice senior. I said, "Do you happen to have another appointment?" Because at this point, I'd been there for an hour and a half. All right. I said, "Do you happen to have another appointment?" And she said, "I don't know. I don't think so." And I said, "Well, someone's ringing the doorbell, And she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I can hear it. Someone's ringing the doorbell. Would you like me to answer the door?" And I'm thinking I need to answer the door, right? I need to answer the door and I need to shut this down, right? And I said, "I'll get it for you. I'll see who it is. It's probably a salesperson, you know?" And and she goes, "No, no, no, I'll get it." And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm posted up in the kitchen on the beautiful granite countertop with my laptop and my book and my, listing agreement and my iPad and all of it. I'm posted up in the kitchen. She can't, the person at the door can't see me standing in the kitchen. Okay. The way the floor plan is, can't see me. My client opens the door and man, she gets into it. Bam. "Hi, this is blank. I'm from blank. I got your phone number from blank. Okay. I've called you 3 times. I've texted you 3 times. I looked your address up on the tax record and I want to talk to you about selling your house." Okay. This gal doesn't have, I can say that. Gal doesn't have an appointment. Okay. But she just showed up. All right. When the potential client didn't call her back and didn't text her back, she showed up to the house and knocked on the door. Okay. Oh, by the way, also on the granite countertop is the client's phone. Okay. And this thing is blowing up. Beep, 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 vibrating, doing all this, making all this noise. And this is a senior citizen. All right. Those are realtors. That is not her friends talking about the bunco party or the tour bus to Thunder Valley, or those are agents blowing up her phone, right? I'm in the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen. And this agent at the door, I mean, she ain't letting go. She is pushing her way in the house. She ain't letting go until finally my client says, "Well, actually, um, I'm interviewing somebody else right now." The agent still doesn't put two and two together, doesn't realize that means that person's in the house. Okay. Maybe she thinks she's interviewing on the phone or whatever. She didn't know I'm there. And she starts talking about, "Well, you got to get more than one opinion and you don't have to sign with anybody that you're talking to already and blah, 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 blah." And I mean, she's going hard. Then the client says, "Well, I'm pretty sure I've made my decision and I'm just going to go with him." Right? Not good enough. Okay, she goes into it again with another spiel about, "Oh, you should let me in. Oh, you should let me meet with you. Oh, you should get a competitive bid, blah, 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 blah." And I want you to remember this. The client then reiterates, "No, I think I've made my decision, and he is from here." Okay. Because I told her, hey, you know what? My dad lives right there. Okay. The house that I grew up in high school is right there. Right. I did all of that. Right. He's from here. I'm from here too. I blah, 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 blah. Right. So she finally says, well, I think I'm going to go with him. Listen, listen close, because he called me first. Okay. He called me first. Guess what answer she had for that one? None. No response. Well, I mean, I tried to call you. I know, but he called me first. Okay. So finally, she goes away, right? My client comes back in, and I just smiled, and she just smiled. I said, it sounds like it's time for us to do some paperwork. She said, well, crack me up. Well, I guess we should. And I said, okay, let's get into it. So we went through and we did the listing agreement. Okay. We went through and we did the listing agreement. We executed it. And we talked about next steps. We talked about how it was going to go. We talked about price. Whew. Try and explain my price strategy to a senior citizen. Okay. It is difficult. It is difficult because the closest thing we have to a senior citizen, I love you, Alan, but it's Alan. Okay. Those old school folks are of the mindset that you start high and give yourself room to negotiate, right? I mean, Alan, am I right? That's how they were raised. Like it's part of their DNA. And we had to spend a lot of time to cut through that. The other thing you need to know is that when I had that first conversation in the parking lot of the restaurant, and let me back up. What I came to find out was that I sold another house on that street a year or so ago. I came to find out that they were friends, okay, and they had talked, and of course, everything, blah, blah, blah. So when my new client talked to me on the phone for the first time, she said, I need to let you know right up front that I'm not staging my house. Okay. I'm not going to do it. I don't need it. My house is perfect. We're not going to do it. And I said, that's fine. I understand. Okay. That's fine. When I walk the house, no, that house is getting staged. Okay. The house is getting staged. So by the end of the conversation, also, she's a stager. She's staging. Okay. So we had to go through all of that. And then when I thought we were done, we had to take another tour because what I hadn't seen yet was the underbelly of the house, the crawl space under the decks, all I needed to see that too. So we did all that. Folks, it took 3.5 hours. Okay. 3.5 hours. Remember, I told you I forgot to go to the bathroom? Never went to the bathroom in the house. I won't go to the bathroom in a client's house, right? Okay. So it took 3.5 hours with me having to pee. Okay. And it was worth it because it's signed. It's done. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. What would it have looked like? How would it have gone if I didn't stop my dinner and make that call? What would have happened if I hadn't said, I will be there first thing in the morning tomorrow? I will be there tomorrow. What if I would have said, well, I got to get the book done. I don't want to pay for the extra. I'm not quite ready to do all that. I show up around noonish. What would have happened? The other one would have showed up banging on the door and it probably would have been done because that lady was closing. I'm telling you right now, she was closing. Okay. Without that speed to lead, without that strategy that I've been pounding into your heads about make the phone call, make the text message, tell them you'll be there tomorrow. If they tell you they don't want to see you tomorrow, fine, but tell them you'll be there tomorrow. Tell them you'll be there tomorrow first thing in the morning. If I hadn't followed that protocol, I don't think I get that listing. I really don't. Okay. I think that it ends up going to the one that showed up banging on the door, to be honest with you. Okay. the mindset of the world, and we've talked about it before, but the mindset of the world is I want an instant response and I want an instant result. Okay. You can thank Amazon for that. You can thank Netflix for that. You can thank everything that we have now in our world for that. Nobody waits anymore. Okay. Whether it's a seller, whether it's a buyer, whether it's a prospect, your reaction time has to be right now. Right now. And I think as we talk about prospecting in the second half of our chat here, I think that your reaction to prospects, even if they're not bona fide buyers and sellers at this point, also has to be right now. Because remember, I think that that is what we have been conditioned to expect. Okay. Now it's going to be a great listing. It's not going to be without challenge. All right. All listings have challenges right now. This one's got some unique challenges. But are any of us in the position right now, any of us in the position right now to pass on a listing? No. You know, I can't emphasize to you enough that the stuff that I'm saying to you on a weekly basis about, being fast, doing things a certain way, coming prepared, that's not just BS. Okay. Start thinking about it. Put yourself in a position to do it. Do what Karen and Jessica are doing right now, which is building books to have on hand. Okay. They're being smart. Okay. They're ready to react. They're ready to react. You have got to be ready to react right now, or someone's going to take it from you. That's the market we're in. Someone's going to take it from you. We're no longer in a real estate market where almost every agent on the planet has two in escrow all the time. Okay, that's not where we are. When we were there, where any effective agent usually had one escrow going all the time, I don't think that reaction had to be so fast. But people are hungry right now. People are starving right now. People need business right now. And they will pull out all the stops to get that business. How many of you, because I wouldn't have done that. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't have done that. If I was that agent and I made the phone call and I made the text and I didn't get a response, and I'm talking about a response in less than 24 hours, okay? Because remember, my sphere sent the information to three of us at 5 o'clock the day before. Okay. It's 10:30 a.m. the following day. It hasn't even been 24 hours. How many of us would have shown up to the house without an appointment if we didn't get a response to our phone call and text message? And how many hours is that? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't. 12, 17 hours. Would anybody have shown up on the house knocking on the door? If there's anybody here that would have done that, I want to hear from you, because I wouldn't have done it. Would anybody have done it?
Depends how far away the house is.
Michael would have done it. Yeah, I know he would have done it. Yeah. Auburn agent, Auburn house. So that would be like, if the house was down the street from you, would you go bang on the door? I bet you would.
Yeah, if it was close enough, But if I'm gonna drive all the way to Auburn, I'm like, man, I would definitely want an appointment first.
Okay, that's one. Anybody else? Would anybody else have done that? I mean, I consider myself a closer, and I wouldn't have done that. Alan, would you have done that?
I actually thought about it. I was in a situation like that and I thought about it and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And and I'm gonna be honest, it was in Lake Wildwood in my neighborhood. And
Uh-huh.
I knew about it. It was before you had these leads on given to you. And I sent a letter and I called and left a message. And I said,
Hmm.
well, God, I should just, you're not allowed to door knock in Lake Wildwood, but it doesn't matter. I'm here. I should just go walk my dog and down there and just
Yeah.
knock on the door. I didn't do it. And well, I knew the agent that got it, and I go, son of a bitch. I should have did it.
You should
Because
have
had
done
I
it.
knocked, I probably would have got it.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask the gallery this. Okay. And I want to hear from everybody on this if you're able to. Don't crash a car, don't do anything like that. All right, but I want to hear from you on this. Who thinks it's a good idea what she did? Who thinks it's a good idea? Does anybody
Go
think
e-
it's
It
could
almost
go
worked.
either way.
okay? One at a time. Let's see.
It could go either way.
Steve says it could go either way. I think you're right, but Steve, what I'm asking you is, do you think it's a good idea?
I'll answer that. I don't think it, you know, if you know your neighborhood and you know the address, I don't think it's necessarily a good idea because you can get, you know, especially if you leave them a card and you walk away from there. And another case in Lake Wildwood, I got a lead that from another agent told me, hey, Alan, and this was kind of a deal that I think I got caught up in and two agents fighting. Hey, this gal you did a job for you as a contractor did work for is gonna be listing her house and go say some good words for me as a contractor. And it was right when I just got into the biz. So I go there and I leave my card on the window and like, hey, call me because let's talk. And I get a call from the agent, leave my client alone. It's like, so yeah, it could be a bad thing because this lady now is scared and went and says, this guy's got the balls to come up to my door and give a card.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it could go either way. And then you get that old lady you have, yeah, you probably would have lost the listing, you
Yeah.
know?
I
Yeah.
agree. It could go either way. I agree. I'm genuinely curious if anybody thinks it's a good idea. Uh,
It depends on where the property is.
uh-huh.
If it's in Forest Hill, do not.
Bad idea.
Bad idea.
Bad idea. I
Yeah.
agree.
Nice
I-
little suburb in the city, sure.
You
Yeah.
know, I still think it's a bad idea.
You think it's a bad idea all the way around. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Does
I mean, it
anybody,
almost worked, right?
it almost worked. It almost
Well,
worked. That's the only reason I'm asking. My default is hell no. Like I'm not that person, but it would have worked. Does anybody in the gallery think it's a good idea? Don't step on each other. Just if anybody thinks it's a good idea, start talking. I guess it's a no. I don't know yet, guys. I mean, I got to be honest. I don't know. Like, I think I'm gonna side with Caron here. It depends where it is. If it's a track house in the mid fives in Rockland, I'm probably knocking on the door. I think I might knock on the door. Don't come to my house in Colfax and do that. Don't do it at Caron's house, you know, but I don't know. I haven't decided all the way yet, but it blew me away. I'm sure it happens a lot more, and I've just never been exposed to it. And the thing that's got me thinking and wondering and why I'm asking the question is because of what Michael said. It almost worked. And I just don't know. So that's my listing story. Take what you will from it. Learn from my experience, learn about the environment that we're in right now, learn about reaction time, learn about how you could plan so that when that happens to you, because it will, when it happens to you, you can be ready and deal with it and have the conversation with your significant other that at some point in time, they're going to hate your freaking job. Okay? All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about prospecting. Prospecting, farming, whatever you want to call it. It's really, really hard, I think, to know whether or not you're doing a good job. Okay, so I want to spend a little bit of time and talk to you a little bit about how you can grade yourself on your prospecting. First of all, does everybody agree? Well, let me ask it this way. Does anybody disagree with me when I say that if you're not prospecting, it's not a question of if you're going to go out of business, it's just a question of when you're going to go out of business, right? None of us are good enough to not be filling our pipeline with new business, because remember that whatever we do in real estate today, prospecting wise, doesn't show up as a paycheck for at least 60 days. Okay. So we've got to be filling that pipeline, filling that pipeline, filling that pipeline on a fairly consistent basis if we're going to run a sustainable business. Okay. Unless you're really, really lucky, and there's some of them out there, where you can do absolutely no prospecting and your sphere will just take care of it for you. Okay. Let's talk about me. I am really, 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 really lucky. Okay. So for the past 2 years, my sphere has given me 18 or so units a year. Okay. Without any prospecting. But this year, my sphere has given me squat, and the first quarter's over. So that's what can happen to you if you're not prospecting, right? And I don't think any of you quite yet have the same book of business that I do to prospect from as a sphere. So if we agree that prospecting is critical to our survival, what's really, really hard to determine is whether or not I'm doing a good job, right? So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about a couple of things to start wrapping your mind around to know that you're doing an effective job prospecting. Let's talk about the easy stuff first. I want you to ask yourself, how many emails am I sending a week? How many marketing emails am I sending a week? And what's a good number? So here's what I would shoot for initially. Look in KV Core and find out how many people you have in KV Core that are classified as sphere. Okay, KV Core will tell you exactly how many there are. You should be sending at least that many emails a week. Okay, so if you look in your KV Core and you search under sphere and it comes up and it says you have 500 names that are classified as sphere, that means you should be sending at least 500 emails a week, at least. Okay, if you're not doing that, that means that at a minimum, you don't have your sphere client set up on a weekly touch. Okay. Now, if you're doing an effective job prospecting, it's going to be more than that 500, because you're not only sending emails to sphere, but you're also sending emails to prospects, active clients, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But you should be communicating by email to everybody in your book at least once a week. Okay. Number one. Number two, how many times a week are you posting content? Okay. How many times a week are you posting content? I would say, and the social media people will disagree with me, but I would say you've got to be shooting for 5 to 7 as a minimum. If you're doing it 5 to 7 times a week at a minimum, you're probably doing an adequate entry-level job. Here's the real question, though. Not counting active clients, not counting any actively looking buyers, or not counting any active sellers, whatever process they may be in. How many conversations are you having a week where you could tell me a story like I told you at the beginning of the meeting? How many? Michael comes to me on a Friday and I say, Michael, give me all your prospecting stories. How many stories can Michael tell me? Because what the story means is that there was engagement. right? There was some kind of engagement back and forth between him and another human being. That doesn't mean that they had to talk about listing a house. That doesn't mean that they had to talk about buying a house. That could mean that they talked about what's going on in real estate, right? That could mean that they talked about, tell me about what's going on with your kid in Little League. You know, how many conversations did you have with potential clients or potential sphere members that you could tell me a story about? That's how you know whether or not you're truly prospecting. Okay, that's how you know. But Damian, what does the Little League game have to talk about? Blah 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 blah. You know, one of my strategies. I'm not shy about it at all. When I talk to people in my sphere, when I check in with them, make no doubt about it, I am prospecting them. Okay, I am absolutely prospecting them. I want them to understand and remember what I do for a living, and that if they have anything going on, or if they have friends that have things going on, or family members, blah, 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 I'm the guy. But when I call them or when I run into them, I don't say, hey, let's talk about real estate. I say, hey, what's going on? What have you been up to lately? What kind of activities you been doing? How's the house? I saw on social media you got a new car. How's that going? You know, I saw that Jimmy went to state championships. How'd he do? Trust me, we're going to get to, especially nowadays, we're going to get to how's the market. We're going to get there. They're going to ask me. But I'm not going to lead with that, because then I'm just a scumbag realtor that wants to talk shop all the time. Okay? For these conversations, I want you to shoot for having 5 to 7 of them a week, 1 a day, 1.5 a day, 1.25 a day. Okay? Michael's already shaking his head. He knows, not doing it, not getting it done. Okay? Don't worry, Michael, you're not alone. Neither am I. None of us are getting it done. Okay? We're not getting it done. I know we're not getting it done. Do you want to know why I know we're not going to get it? We're not getting it done? Let me give you the math on this. Okay? And I'm not going to go all Brian Buffini on you, but let me give you the math on this, because this is factual data. If you did 7 conversations a week, 7 prospecting conversations a week, that would be 28 conversations a month, 336 conversations in a year. Okay? The data is clear. Your conversion rate on those prospecting conversations is 1%. Straight up, 1%. Guys, that's 3 or 4 listings a year, or 3 or 4 transactions a year. In case you're not real fast with math, that's 60,000 commission dollars. That's how important those conversations are. That's how important prospecting is. If you can find a way to have 7 conversations a week, 5 to 7 conversations a week, prospecting conversations you wouldn't have had otherwise, it's 60 grand in your pocket. That's it. The easiest way to know whether or not I'm doing a good job prospecting is to ask myself, how many stories can I tell, or can I say that I had about conversations in my week? Okay? Piece of cake. If you are having 1 a week, well, somebody do that math for me. 1 a week, 4 a month, 48 a year. What's 1% of 48? No. Yeah, 48 a year. What's 1% of 48? Somebody. Help me. It's not even a full 1, right? Yeah, it's 0.0 or 0.48 or 0.04.
0.48.
0.48. That's half a transaction a year. 1 conversation a week, half a transaction a year. Right? 3 conversations a week, 3, 4, 12, 12, 12, 144, 1% of 144, 1.4, 1.4 transactions. Now, we're real estate agents, so we're supposed to live our life on the phone or having conversations in an 8-hour day, despite everything that you have else to do. I can't believe that it is impossible to have 2 conversations a day. Somebody do that math for me. 2 times 2 a day is 10 a week, right? 5 days a week. Let's say you work 5 days a week. That's 10 a week, 10 a week. 10, that's 40. 40 times 12 is what? Somebody help. 40 times 12.
Well, it should be 520.
520 times 0.01, Steve.
5.2.
5.2, yeah.
5 or 6. Okay, Steve, let's take 6 times 15,000. 6 times 15,000.
Oh,
What?
90,000.
It's only 90 grand, guys. Ah, we don't need that. Chump change. That's how you know if you're prospecting. Okay? That's the easiest way for me to break down for you. That's how I know if I'm doing an effective job prospecting. It's your accountability partner, whether that's your significant other or somebody else, somebody in the office, whatever. How many stories are you going to tell me about this week? How many conversations you have this week that are story worthy? If they're story worthy, you can check off a 1. If they're not story worthy, no. And here's where people get confused. I need to be clear about this. But Damian, I made 14 phone calls and 37 text messages a day. Every day. Okay, that is not a contact. The conversion rate on voicemails and text messages is way lower than 1, guys. Way lower than 1. All right? Your emails, your text messages, and your voicemails they have one purpose and one purpose only. Somebody tell me what the purpose is. Help me.
Relevant.
Yes, Steve. Yeah, keep you relevant. There's another purpose. There's 2 purposes then. Thank you. Keep you relevant. What's the second one? To generate a response. Right? To generate a response, to generate a conversation. Because conversations are where it's at. Conversations are what convert. Okay? 46. Questions, comments, thoughts. Who's getting it done at this point in time? Nobody raise your hand. Somebody think I'm nuts.
I got a question.
Go.
There was NextHome was doing a video Zoom about that program they're rolling out with the rehab funds.
Huge.
When I haven't seen it come up yet. Did I
Okay.
miss it?
No, you did not. So
Okay.
great question. Let's spend a little bit of time on that, guys, because I need you to understand how huge this is.
Yep.
Okay. I believe that the webinar is on May 7th. Make sure that you register for the webinar. Make sure that you watch it, or make sure that you watch the playback. Lots of real estate brokerages have these quote unquote programs where you can fix up the house before you sell it. All of them suck except for one. Okay. The one that doesn't suck is Compass. Okay. It's Compass. I know a very productive, he's a friend of mine, a very productive Compass agent in the Bay Area. He works on a team, and it's the largest team in the Bay Area, or one of the largest teams in the Bay Area. These guys do volume. Okay. About 6 months ago, I asked him, what is your, we're never going to compete, right? So we get to have these conversations. I said, what is your pitch? Like, how are you closing so many listings? He goes, it's all in our, whatever they call it. I'll just say rehab. It's all in our rehab program, Damian. And I go, what do you mean? And he said, well, basically what it is like we can give them 50 grand to spend to fix up their program. There's no credit hit. There's no upfront cost. There's no interest. There's no anything. It's like, take this 50 grand, fix up your house, we'll sell it, and then you pay it when the house sells. And I said, how does that work? And he goes, oh, it's through corporate. And we just, every listing we do does something with it. Almost every listing we do does something with it. And I said, man, we need that. So I called Next Mortgage, our partner mortgage company. And I said, you guys got anything like this? And they go, no, I wish we did. Right. And so then I called my lender, the guy that I've been using for years and years and years. I said, dude, we need to be able to do this. Like, how can you help? How can we do this? And he goes, man, that's a great idea. And I go, yeah, how do we do it? And he goes, well, we can't. I mean, about the quickest thing we could do is give him a HELOC, right? Like, that's not fast. That takes docs. There's a credit hit. I mean, there's all this. That's not fast. That's not fast. All right. So I might have whined a little bit, and I'm not taking credit for this program because I whined a little bit and then forgot about it, right? But now we got it. It's coming. We got it. It's huge. I'm sure there's going to be paperwork. Okay. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit involved. Okay. But it's really, really easy. You're going to be able to go in to a listing appointment and say, we got to stage this thing. It would be great if we had new carpet because this carpet's beat. It would be great if we had a coat of paint. Okay. And I can do that for you with no cost to you. I can do that for you. Think about that for a minute. How many of you guys go to a listing appointment that they say, oh, well, I would stage it, but I don't want to pay the money. I can't afford to pay $4,000 right now. Yes, you can. Okay. Well, I know it needs paint and I know my carpet's ratty and I'd love to put in some LVT, but I can't afford that right now. Yes, you can. You can do all of that. You can paint, put in your LVT and stage it and we're good to go. And there's no docs. I'm sure there's an agreement. I shouldn't say that. But there's no doc qualifying. There's no credit hit. There's no interest. There's no payment. There's no any of that. Okay? It's game changer. Absolute game changer. Make sure that you watch the webinar. Register for the webinar, whether you're going to be able to watch it live or not, because when you register for the webinar, you get a playback link. Watch it, understand it, use it. I'm sure that our listing books are going to be updated with this now. So it's going to be in our presentation. Okay. It's going to be awesome, you guys. It's going to be awesome. When we'll practice it, once we understand it, once we understand how to sell it, it's a game changer. You're going to be able to get business that other people are competing for because you have something that they don't have. You're going to be able to get a better product to market. You're going to be able to capture more money for your sellers. You're going to be able to make more money in commissions. You're going to give them a bigger net. It's win, 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 win. And nobody else has it except for those dirty bastards at Compass. Okay? Steve, thanks for bringing that up. Anything else?
Oh, I was going to say Century 21 does that because when I was with them, they have a program called Refresh and Refurbish.
Yep.
So
I actually
maybe
did
Century 21 too.
Yeah, I actually did one of their deals. And I only did it once.
Why'd you only do it once? Because it was a pain?
Well, you know what you're talking about. If you can go in there and all they need is carpet and paint, it's worth it and they have money, but the one I did it with, they needed a little bit more than that. And it was maxed, they maxed out to 30,000
Yep.
and they weren't too honest. And I don't know how this didn't get caught, but they really didn't have the money on the backside that they needed to
Oh.
back it up.
Oh,
So the
oh,
deal, I mean, it got finished, everything went through, but boy, I had to work my butt off for that one.
yeah.
And it could have went south if you know, they signed everything. Of course, they were stuck with it, but you know, if somebody gets in a bind, they can go south. Then you're stuck with it in court, you know?
Yeah.
Well, no,
So-
you gotta be careful. You gotta make sure the person that, you're doing it for actually has a bank account, okay, that has money in it. Cause you know, if they can't back themselves and you're putting that in there and the house don't sell, it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Number one, you've got to, you know, and this is talking to our clients to be smart about it. You got to understand. You got to do a little bit of math, right? Like, so if we do this, and you spend this 30 grand or 50 grand, you know, the house is going to sell for this much money. We know what's going to happen. The house is going to sell for this much money. Let's give ourselves a little handicap from that, just in case it doesn't sell for quite that much money. And is everything going to be okay? Like, are we going to be okay? Does it make sense? Yeah, you absolutely got to do that. I don't think you just throw it out there and, you know, use it indiscriminately. No.
It's a good program though, it really is. I mean, and especially for houses that don't need a lot of work, because people usually a lot in this situation, I find that people were doing actually construction work that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, no,
Just-
I think this is a lipstick product, right?
Exactly.
Like it's paint, it's floors, it's staging, it may be some landscaping, right? Front curb appeal landscaping. It's that kind. This is not, I need a deck, I need a roof, I need a, you know, I've got 15 grand in section 1. That's not what this is.
Right.
This
In a
is-
convertible.
yeah, then yeah, I need an RV. That's not what this is. This is, you know, we could really turn this into a showpiece if we had some floors, if we had some paint, interior, exterior paint, and if we had some curb appeal and some staging, right? That's what this is. That's what this is. Good points. What else? Nothing? Okay, give me well, some of you are on camera. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Was the listing story helpful? Yes or no? Karen comes on to give thumbs up. Good. All right. You know where to find it's 55.
I noticed Jessica put a thumbs up last though.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she
It
did.
was peer pressure.
She's like, oh yeah, it was so awesome that it worked out. But when it was going down, she was like, had a fork, like, yes.
Dude, if that didn't work for you, I think you wouldn't be smiling right now.
She could have driven home.
No,
Yeah.
no, she couldn't. No, she couldn't. And I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. But no, she couldn't. She was stuck.
Oh, never mind.
It's kind of why I have an ex. Enjoy, guys.
Yep. All right, you guys. You know where to find me if you need me. Think about the conversations. Think about what we talked about as far as speed to lead, and sell yourself some real estate this weekend. I'll see you later.